The ontological argument is one of the arguments presented as evidence for the existence of a God, but it is also one of the most easily disputed arguments. It goes as follows. We have a concept of a perfect being. Such a perfect being must necessarily exist. Why? If he did not exist, then he would not be perfect. Now, it might seem like a good argument, but it falls down on a number of places. First, let's see if a perfect being can exist. Obviously, I won't be looking into the natural world to find a perfect being, and because the supernatural is by default unprovable, I must use a logical argument to decipher its existence. So, let's define a perfect being. My concept of a perfect being is an all-knowing, all-powerful one, and I'm sure that's the general consensus of a perfect being. Okay, so our concept is hanging out, being perfect, when it decides to do something all-powerful. It wants to make a weight that's so heavy, not even it can lift it. Would it be able to succeed? Perhaps. But if it did, it wouldn't be all-powerful. The weight is so heavy, not even it can lift it. That means the being isn't powerful enough to lift the weight, and thus is imperfect. Inversely, if it were able to lift the weight, it has failed in creating one too heavy to lift, and has proven itself to be imperfect again. This means a perfect being, by that definition, can never exist. And because that's the concept of a perfect being, not even the first line of the ontological argument can pass. Of course, if we change the definition of perfect to not include all-powerful, however, I can no longer see how it could still be considered a perfect being, then it can all fit nicely. But the argument can still be scrutinized further. If we assume the ontological argument is in fact true, then any word we replace being with must also exist. Let's take a car for example. We have a concept of a perfect car. Such a perfect car must necessarily exist. Why? If it did not exist, then it would not be perfect. Think about it. A perfect car. One which didn't need to run on fuel, never broke down, and the ride was always smooth. But does one exist in the real world? No. It can exist solely in our minds, at this point in time at least, and is therefore not real. Now, if we put being back into the argument, we can use the same reasoning to say that a perfect being can only exist in our minds, or, in other words, is imaginary.